All right, I'm here with Steve and Malediction, brought to you by Loot Studio. Here at Tabletop Trio, we really love them, and we're going to sit down and learn about the game.
What do you want to know?
Everything, honestly.
Everything.
But whatever you're willing to share with us.
Sure. So what we're doing, we're pushing the boundaries when it comes to the product design. We're trying something really different. It's the miniatures game that has no minis in the box. Right?
Okay. Shocking.
Right? But then you see what's here. It's like, well, what do you mean? Well, what we're doing is we're trying to be very eco-friendly. We're trying to be, quick to market, and we're trying to keep the cost down so people have access to it. So by making it so it's, cardboard and paper first, you can play right out of the box. You don't need to do anything. But we give you access to a code that gives you all the files for your faction, including the terrain, right?
Fantastic.
So if you want something simple, play maybe with the kids, or somebody who's a little more casual, keep it simple, right? It's just like a board game. But you want to go to town, knock yourself out, right? Have a great time.
So it's really multi-leveled. You're a beginner, you're getting into it, and then once you're in it, now you're printing the bigger files.
Exactly. And painting it up, doing all the stuff, right? All the hobby stuff. But what's nice is you can engage in the level you want. It's not too scary. Some of the stuff you look at like, wow, that's beautiful, and I can't paint, or I'm not good. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But this still allows you can play the game. You can go with the models, you can go with the standees, whatever you want to do.
And I think you're hitting both markets where you have the card portion and the terrain and miniature portion. So you got that kind of Magic the Gathering vibe with a little Warhammer vibe.
For sure.
And I think that's really awesome.
A lot of people have come and said they feel like it's Magic Commander meets, Warhammer Skirmish. And that's kind of the best compliment that anybody can pay, because that kind of hits what we were going for, right? Instead of just a card coming out and very abstractly staying there, your unit comes in and now it's in living, 3D moving piece, and it interacts with the environment, right?
That's awesome. And I think that speaks a lot to the replayability, because right now I'm looking around, you have 4 different sets, 4 different factions, and the cards are all beautifully designed and very different,
They are.
You set the terrain up different, you draw different cards, and that replayability keeps people coming back.
Funny, the terrain itself is part of your deck customization.
Oh.
So not only do you build your deck with your units and your spells and everything else, but you choose a terrain type. So, this one in particular, this giant here, it's kind of the toxic blood, and you take damage if you're on it, right? So you might have a faction that comes in that manipulates people and pushes and pulls, and you grab your opponent and stick them on there, right? And they do damage,
you want to drag them right through that.
You got it. Or, you want to slow them down and you want to maybe do something more subterfuge. So you bring a different terrain that maybe hides you or shrouds you. So there's more to just the terrain looking nice, and it does look nice, right?
Yeah.
But gameplay effects play into how you customize your army and your warband.
That strategy, that blend of the card game, and then you have to be strategic around a map, I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
It's pretty cool. That's why we call it a miniatures card game. It's both. It does both.
Yes.
In a very unique way. So mechanically, about how the game plays, what do you want to know?
Let's start at the beginning. So when you're building a deck, how many cards do you get in it?
So you can have a minimum of 30, and because it's not collectible, everything, it's a fixed thing. You and I get the same box, same contents, right?
Yep.
In order to manage the number of copies of cards and keep the power level the way we need to, we have a ranking system. So you have bronze, which means you can have 3 copies of that card. Silver, you have 2. Gold, you can have 1. I mean, we can't have, crazy giant trolls stomping around. You can't have 3 copies, only 1, right? So that's kind of how we manage, the quantity of cards and duplicate. It works really well. So in the deck building, that's kind of what you do. You want to have enough units on the board, because if you just bring spells, you don't have a physical presence. So there's a balance of making sure you have enough people to bring in. But also you want some tricksy spells.
Yeah.
The spells are a lot of fun. They allow you to interrupt and do some really wacky things that catch your opponent off guard.
The interaction with the terrain and the spell cards, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So after you have the deck built, what determines the positioning of the terrain?
So in the setup phase, you will have brought your terrain. So you each know, I brought, the yucky, gory giant. Yeah. And I brought the crazy, creepy swamp tree, right? I have that terrain. So you both know what you got. And then there's an alternating placement where the big one, there's a large piece, there's medium, and there's small. So you start with the big ones, so they kind of set the tone, then a medium, and then you have the small ones. And as you place and alternate, that's going to change. We're like, oh man, I need this close to my side, or I need to put that by my opponent to get in the way, right?
Yeah.
So you're both going to be seeing what each other's doing, and it's a pretty nice alternating thing.
I like that's even part of the game before you play the game.
The pregame game?
Yeah, the pregame game is I'm going to place this here, and now my opponent's like, oh, well, if you put that there, I'm going to put that there.
You do that, I'll raise you that. Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that it's going to be a nice blend.
So, when I talk about the game, there are 3 key innovations that stand out to me. I've done these games for a long time. I worked on X-Wing back in the day, right? Like I've been doing minis games for a long time.
Oh, you've been in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And this one does a couple of things. We already talked about the product design. We talked about the deck building. There's some unique things there. But there are 3 key mechanical things that I love about it that is innovative that I have not seen other ones do. Now, of course, I don't get to play everything, so maybe it's been done, right? But the way initiative works in this game is really cool, okay? So, and you talked about the pregame game. In setup, you get a chance to bid for initiative, and you both take your starting hand, what you got, and you literally place the card face down, and you're spending that card now as a bid, as a value, based on its cost. And you do that, and the card's gone. Like, you will no longer be able to use that card. So, like, that's your starting hand. That's getting you ready. That's your initial strategy. And now you decide to slough that card instead of another one because you need initiative. It forces you to adapt on the fly, right? To really be agile. And every round, the player who doesn't have initiative can challenge and initiate another bid.
I love that.
Right? Isn't that great?
Yeah. So it's constly a strategic, like, okay, I know.
How bad do I need initiative?
Yeah, how bad do I need that?
Do I really want to sacrifice, this crazy berserker dude, or do I need him on the table, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing to think about, when you don't have initiative, you challenge, you bid that card. Your opponent doesn't have to bid anything. They can just say, fine, take it, and you've lost something. So the player with initiative doesn't have to spend a card. Maybe they want to keep it, right?
Okay, so that also swings the whole battle.
It's like, do I want to bluff to make you? And then you're like, well, I'm not doing a card. So there's a lot more interplay there of like, do I want to force you to play a card, keep initiative?
It's a game within a game.
It's a game within a game. Okay, so that's one. Number 2, when you deploy, you normally start with your own corner here. The corners have the deployment zone, okay?
Okay.
And you always have that, and it's always safe to deploy there. But what I love about this game, when you move your units out into the board, not only are you doing what you tactically need, to get into position to attack or get line of sight, you're doing that. But every single unit is a mobile spawn point. You have reinforcement deployment, so you always deploy here, vanilla. But when you're out into the play area, anything within 1 inch, by the way, that's like a mechanical keyword, nearby. In the game, nearby is within 1 inch. So lots of things revolve around nearby. Anybody who's unengaged, as long as you're not engaged with an opponent, is a mobile spawn point. And now you can deploy nearby. So it does so many things. Now your movement is more about long-term strategy too. It's not just in that moment, or let me get in the line of sight to snipe somebody. Now you're thinking ahead like, okay, this guy's got to get here because I need to put this person out. And then go, you know what I mean? Like,
I might not need him here, but I need the next person.
The next guy here, exactly. Yeah. You got it. So that's something I really love. And it also speeds up the game. I'm not having to voomp, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just this wave after wave, whatever. So it really makes the game more dynamic. The third thing, especially in the game with the D20, you might say, well, this kind of swingy, right? Like there's a lot of numbers there, right?
Yeah.
What happens, the way this game works, the thing I say is, even when you miss, you never miss. Okay, so you're thinking more binary, a hit and miss mechanic. It doesn't work that way. What we have on the cards, you have a stat. And what you're going to do is look at that. You're going to do the roll. You're going to add a bonus to it. And then you're going to check against the armor of the opponent. If you meet or exceed that, it's a hit. And that's a key terminology in the game. If you hit, maybe there's some bonuses you get, right?
Yeah.
And if you hit, you're going to do max damage. On every card, you have a damage value. There's a slash. There's a big number and a small number. If you hit, you do big number, full damage. Mm-hmm. Even if you miss, which you don't miss, it's called a graze. I mean, think about it, right? We're scuffling. Boom, I do some damage to you, right? I hit you. So you do a partial amount of damage. It's a smaller number.
So you always get that good feeling, okay, I did something.
You never whiff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like, back in the day I worked on Descent at FFG, and you'd have that X, and you'd like roll the X, and you'd whiff, and you're like, oh my God.
The natural one in D&D plagues me.
It does. It's funny enough. So when you critical hit, you add both numbers together and do a big hit. When you do a critical fumble, you zero out all modifiers and still do 1 damage. Even when you miss, you never miss. You got it. So the game moves inexorably forward. You're not, crushingly penalized. It rewards you. It allows you to keep going and is not crushing, right?
I love the skirmish, small style play. It's a more intimate battle than like a large scale war game.
Yeah, that's what we were going for. So this one's 2x2. This is the tight demo version. Mm-hmm. The full one is a 3x3, which has a little more breathing room, but you're still, with the reinforcement, you're in each other's face, right? Once you're in there, you're going at it.
And you said a 30 card minimum. For a larger space, you could up the card amount.
You could.
And then
when you're
have
doing,
a little more out there.
You can, but you're also diluting your deck with what you're going to see. You're not going to see your whole deck.
Yeah.
So be careful about adding more cards to it because you're not going to see everything.
Okay.
Something else I should mention: the game has in the lore, it has these husks. These husks are kind of the remnant of a former wielder of a relic, and the Malediction is spawning these husks around. Relics are like game-breaking, crazy cards. They're nuts. Like one allows you to just shoot through stuff and have a bonus on your range, right? It's this crazy bow. Another one lets you teleport around. Like, they're nuts. While you're holding them, you get VP. VP is called Mastery in the game. You get points toward victory. Only while you're holding them. But if I tackle you and fumble and beat you, it's gone, right?
Okay.
You lose the relic, right?
So does the relic go to the opponent, or
no,
is it just gone?
The husk, you end up becoming, your corpse becomes the husk. It takes your place. And now the husk is there, and someone can go, again, nearby. We talked about engaging nearby. Mm-hmm. Someone who's nearby can now get a new relic. So this relic's been, it was used, this relic's gone, goes to the bottom. Now we say, okay, what other relics are in there? Okay. Oh, these boots, that's cool.
Yeah. I love that it keeps it moving. I love that the terrain isn't just stationary. There's pieces that can move around, and it's it's exciting. I'm excited to do a little run through.
Great. I'd love to do a full demo teach if you want to go.
Awesome. Let's go for it.
All right.